America's Most Wanted is the most successful show in television history at catching America's most dangerous fugitives.
Tonight, his luck runs out.
More than 1,100 suspects captured because of your tips. Now, we are back. And we need your help again to bust the most ruthless fugitives on the run today. We're using incredible new crime-fighting technology and social media to connect us at lightning speeds. All night, we'll be sharing new information about fugitives on the loose right now, maybe living right next door to you. First, Tamara Williams, accused of murdering her loving boyfriend.
We hope to find her wherever she is to face what she's done.
Next, Larry Chisholm, a drug dealer who made 2 violent prison escapes, reportedly robbed a bank, and hasn't been heard from since.
I thought they were going to kill me.
And Chris Burns, a greedy, desperate financial advisor who police say stole millions, then vanished.
He took everything.
He's ruined their future.
Have you seen this man? Tonight, you're our best shot at catching these dangerous fugitives. This is America's Most Wanted.
Good evening, I'm Elizabeth Vargas, and this is America's Most Wanted. We are excited to be with you tonight with a whole new lineup of dangerous fugitives that we need your tips to find. We've captured 1,186 fugitives since America's Most Wanted premiered in 1988, all because of you. And tonight we want that number to grow. After last week's premiere and the tips we received from you, we're confident it will. Keep them coming, because there's no time to waste. Even the smallest tips could help. We also saw your reactions on social media, like this tweet. My mom and dad watched AMW back in the day, and now I'm joining the legacy by watching it for the first time in 2021. Happy to hear a new generation is watching. We have new high-tech crime-fighting tools to help us identify and retrace our suspects' steps, like our life-size AMW criminal avatars featuring age progression technology. We also have our team of expert profilers and investigators, the FBI, U.S. Marshals, all monitoring your tips. But most importantly, we'll hear from the people affected by these crimes, the victims, some of whom are with us in the studio tonight. It's the victims that motivate me to do what I do and to continue the mission set by our original host, John Walsh. We're going to get them justice, and we're going to do it with your help. Remember, you are the most important tool we have. You are our eyes and ears on the ground. All right, let's get started. Our first case, Tamara Williams. In 2018, her boyfriend of 6 months went missing, and days later, his remains were found scattered on the side of an Ohio interstate. But by the time police had enough evidence to arrest her, Tamara Williams was long gone. Maybe you can help us find her tonight.
Cuz Dave just got here. You all right, baby? That's Cuz right there, man. You know what I'm saying?
My brother David was loving. He was my best friend.
Why you play so much?
David was a jokester. He always had us laughing.
Get him.
That was real cute.
David was a great father. His son, DJ, was David's life.
David worked overtime to make sure DJ had everything to succeed both on and off the field.
His everyday life was amazing. But everything changed in March of 2018. David and Tamara knew each other since high school and reacquainted through a mutual friend. She would be laughing in your face, smiling, but it was always something about her that did not sit right with me. I knew she wasn't gonna be good for my brother. Tammy was obsessive. It wasn't obvious to everyone, but it was obvious to me. She wanted David all to herself.
Tamara and David weren't together long, just a few months before they were moving in together, and then it wasn't too long after that the relationship seemed to unravel. We learned that Tamara Williams was quite territorial when it came to David. She was very into this relationship, maybe more into this relationship than David was.
If she couldn't have David, nobody could.
Tammy had David's phone cloned and would send text messages to other females pretending to be David to see what he was doing.
David and DJ's mom were not together. When he wasn't at his mom's, he was at his father's apartment. DJ receives this very strange text from his father that he's not feeling well and DJ should not come over. If David and his father went a day without talking, that would be unusual. A text message saying, "Don't come," very strange.
DJ decided to go to his apartment to check on his dad. He saw Tamara coming out of the apartment with garbage bags.
Dad.
The first thing DJ notices when he enters the apartment is his dad's clothes strewn all over the bed, which is unusual because he knew his dad was neat and tidy.
He also noticed there were cleaning supplies left out in his bathroom. When Tamara gets back, DJ asked her where his dad was. Tammy said he wasn't feeling well, he was out taking a walk.
DJ goes back to his mom's, texts his dad to check on him, and he gets a text back that says, "I'm sick, my throat hurts, I can't talk."
DJ told me the next day. That made me concerned. I decided to check David's apartment, so I called my husband and he said, "I'll meet you there." When we got to the apartment, the door was not locked. I started to freak out. I called my dad to let him know what was going on.
When I walked into David's bedroom, I noticed that the bed was unmade and the bed had been moved. Tasia looked under the bed. She found empty peroxide and the big red stain. Across the bed, I saw the bullet hole in the bottom corner of the door. I told everybody, don't touch anything, everybody out of the apartment. I realized from my training as a military policeman, this was a crime scene.
No one has seen the 39-year-old since Saturday, the same day his son, David Carter Jr., stopped by his dad's place.
His girlfriend was there, but I didn't see him there.
My brother was missing, and Tammy did not come to help us look for David, which was strange. She was always with my brother.
Everyone was wondering what happened to David Carter.
If you were in Melvindale, Michigan, or Metro Detroit and may have seen Tamara Williams or anything suspicious relating to David Carter's disappearance in the fall of 2018, please contact us right now. Even the smallest tips could help. Former prosecutor and legal analyst Yodit Tewalde is here. And Yodit, we actually have some new photographic evidence about Tamara Williams that we can break tonight.
Yes, so with the help of U.S. Marshals, our investigators were able to grab this image here, the last suspected sighting of Tamara Williams in a fish market in the Bronx just 6 months ago.
6 months ago, quite recent.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a huge break in the case because this is the first time we've gotten a photo of Tamara since David's murder.
All right, based on that photograph, as well as the many other photographs of Tamara, we've managed to put together our AMW 3D criminal avatar of Tamara. Tell us what we're looking at here.
So we're looking at a woman who's 42 years old, about 5'5", and weighs 190 pounds. But the most distinct feature, Elizabeth, is this huge tattoo of roses on her left arm that goes all the way up to her shoulders.
That's quite large and quite colorful, hard to miss.
Yep. Large tattoo, but she has several smaller ones, one on her right foot, back, and one on her thighs.
We also know from our profilers that Tamara Williams changed up her appearance quite a bit and did it quite easily.
She did the switch up. She liked to wear her hair in different styles, colors. As you can see here, she's got the short, dark brown pixie cut, then the, long blondish locks. Then she's wearing it curly, straight. So she's able to do the switch up, and that makes it harder for her to be recognized as well.
We have these 4 pictures. There are many, many more. Tamara Williams liked to take photos of herself.
She did. What we know about Tamara is that she liked to be out there. She liked to be seen. She was social. She loves to post selfies, almost one every single day. This photo here was actually the last one she posted, September 27, 2018, just a few days, Elizabeth, before authorities believed that David died.
You're a prosecutor, former prosecutor, spent many hours in the courtroom. How rare is this for a woman to commit a murder like this?
You know, it's really rare. I mean, data shows us that most homicides, up to 90%, are committed by males, right? Against other males. So it's really rare that a woman would want to commit murder.
All right, Judith, thanks. If you've been in the Bronx or in New York City in the last few months and Tamara Williams looks familiar, contact us right away at 1-8333-AMW-TIPS or amwtips.com. Throughout the show, we have crime alerts from all over the country, and we need you at home to help identify and capture these suspected criminals who have all been caught on camera. This crime alert is so unusual, investigators say they've never seen anything like it before. Detectives say this pregnant woman walked into this Fife, Washington subway shop. She wasn't there for a sandwich, she was there to rob the restaurant. She told the employees that she was from the corporate office and needed the store's cash because another location had been robbed. She then pretended to call headquarters to approve it.
Hi. Yeah, I just got here.
Do you recognize her voice? When the employees began to get suspicious, she told them she had a gun and rushed out the front door to a getaway car. Here's another look at her. Investigators say she was wearing a gray jacket, black yoga pants, sneakers, and was pregnant. This happened in January, so she will still be pregnant or may even have a baby by now. If you recognize her out in public and have information about this woman, send us your tips at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS or at our website, amwtips.com.
Next, police are about to discover the gruesome details of David Carter's murder. Tamara Williams is nowhere to be found, but now an AMW exclusive. A new sighting. Could this photo lead us right to her? And later, this acclaimed law student running a secret drug ring, escaping custody twice, and getting violent. Now, he's on the run, and we have new clues to help catch him.
Welcome back to America's Most Wanted. After David Carter went missing, everyone had questions for Tamara Williams, but she wasn't answering them.
Days go by with no sign of David, and then we get this news report out of Ohio.
Routine grass cutting along Interstate 75 led to the discovery of human remains.
90 miles south of Detroit, a crew cutting the grass makes this gruesome discovery of bags and body parts strewn along the highway. Melvindale police contact Ohio State Patrol after they see this law enforcement bulletin with information about what they found.
They send the human remains out for DNA testing.
The DNA comes back. It's determined that these are the remains of David Carter.
When they told me it was David, it shattered me.
At this point, Tamara is definitely a person of interest. Police start searching for Tamara Williams. They receive a tip that she's at a friend's house, so they set up surveillance and actually are able to get her when she's walking to her car. Tamara Williams denies any involvement in the disappearance of David Carter. Police have confirmed the remains of David's body, but they're missing one piece of very crucial evidence. They still don't have his head. They need his head to determine the cause of death. They also don't have a murder weapon. At this point, they only have circumstantial evidence.
During a break in the interrogation, Tamara is placed in a temporary holding cell while police check on her alibi.
It's believed she fakes this seizure to somehow try and get out of being charged.
She was immediately transported to a local hospital.
The prosecutor doesn't believe there's enough evidence to charge Tamara Williams. So she checks herself out and disappears. Eventually, David's head is recovered and they're able to determine the cause of death, that he's been shot in the head. Then they know for sure it's a homicide. It's believed Tamara planned all this. She did this in cold blood. The next day, she dismembers the body and dumps the remains along I-75.
In October of 2018, Tamara Williams boarded a train bound for New York. She stayed in a hotel called the Neptune Hotel. The next morning, she walked out and was never seen again.
My family has been devastated by this.
My brother didn't deserve this. I want to see her turned in and justice for my family.
So even though she was caught on security cameras 6 months ago, Tamara has not left any kind of digital trail in the last 2.5 years. Joining us now in the studio is David Carter's sister, Tasia, her husband, Derek, and U.S. Marshal Andrew Battersby, who's been on this case. Tasia, what made you suspect her from the start?
For someone that had been with my brother every day, didn't go anywhere without my brother for 6 months, for her not to come around when he's missing, that I knew something was wrong.
Derek, did you share those suspicions?
Oh, definitely. It was the same feelings that she had for a person to be around David at family meetings and gatherings all the time, and then when he comes up missing, she's nowhere around. So
we keep hearing how possessive she was. You both saw that a lot?
A lot. He would make comments saying like, let me go back to the party before my tether go off, because he knew that she wouldn't be too far behind coming to check to see what he was doing.
How has the family been? How have you guys managed to get through this?
We have always been a strong family, and we have got through this together. Before my mom passed last year, she prayed and prayed for justice.
Well, even though she didn't live to see justice, you're still working every day?
Every day. I always said that the whole world would know my brother's name, and we would get justice for him.
Marshal Battersby, you consider Tamara Williams to be a dangerous fugitive.
Extremely dangerous.
Why?
I believe she'll do it again in the right opportunity.
Really?
Yes.
It's unusual for women to commit crimes like this.
Really unusual. But I think she's the type that would do it. She's very possessive. And I believe there's probably a male helping her right now that has no idea what she's done.
We know that she hasn't left a digital trail under the name Tamara Williams. Is there an alias she might be using?
While in the Bronx, she did use a credit card.
At that fish market?
At the fish market, as a LaToya Williams.
LaToya Williams, so she might be going under that name.
Yes.
And what is your gut instinct, your detective instinct telling you about where she might be right now?
My gut feel has always been the same, that I believe she's in the New York area, in the Bronx, and somebody is helping her.
Do you think you're going to catch her?
Absolutely. 100%. I believe she will make a mistake and we'll be there to get her.
Tasia, what would you say to Tamara if you were watching the show right now?
Tammy, you know me, and you know my family, and you know that we're not going to rest until David's murderer is brought to justice.
Tasia, Derek, I'm so sorry to meet you both under these circumstances. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Again, if you have seen Tamara Williams in the last few years in Michigan, Chicago, Atlanta, or New York City, you can help us bring justice to David Carter and his family. There's no time to waste. Contact us now. You can go to our website at amwtips.com or call us at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS. And you can always choose to remain anonymous.
Just ahead, one of the most infamous criminals ever profiled on America's Most Wanted, shooting his way out of a bowling alley to escape the law. 40 years later, we have new information. And later, a banker gets greedy, targeting innocent families, accused of stealing millions from their life savings before abandoning his own family for a life on the run. You can help us find him.
Welcome back. On the last America's Most Wanted, we profiled murderer Glenn Godwin, who hasn't been seen since he last broke out of prison in 1991. Viewer Jake Sundahl tweeted, "This Godwin guy's been on the lam for the last 30 years. Hopefully, tonight will be the beginning of the end of his freedom." 30 years is a long time, and that's why right now is a better time than ever to catch these criminals. But we can't do it without you, so keep sending us your tips. In our next case, this won't be the first time he's been featured on America's Most Wanted, but we certainly hope it'll be the last.
It was like my life was in slow motion. I was very afraid I was going to die.
My name is Larry Porter Chisholm. I've already killed 2 people. One more won't make any difference, will it?
So how did this studious, unassuming young man studying law turn into a devious, audacious criminal?
Larry Chisholm was the last guy that you would expect to be a hardened criminal. He was a nerdy, intelligent 26-year-old weeks away from getting his law degree.
Larry Chisholm was a really smart guy, but he had an alter ego.
Between classes, he was organizing a drug ring using teenagers to smuggle heroin from Mexico. In 1974, he was arrested for armed robbery and smuggling heroin and sentenced to 40 years in prison. While Chisholm was in Turney Prison, he was a model inmate. He mediated disagreements between guards and inmates and was the editor of the prison newspaper. Chisholm maintained this quiet, unassuming identity, but kept in contact with the outside world. He started thinking of ways to get out. To reward his and some of the other inmates' good behavior, the prison planned an outing at the local bowling alley.
Chisholm was a criminal mastermind. He always was figuring ahead.
He had a friend go there ahead of time and stash guns and ammo in the bathroom.
I noticed there was something going on in the bathroom area. So I peeked around the door. When I did, Chisholm was standing there with a shotgun. He was in the process of loading it. Just as I turned to fire at him, he fired at me first. When it hit me, it felt like just a gush of hot air. When I come back to myself, I looked down, I had my weapon. Well, I started shooting. I shot him in the hand, but it didn't take him down.
Meanwhile, an 18-year-old woman was crouched down, hiding in the snack bar.
I was on the floor behind the counter when Larry Chisholm pointed his gun at me. He and 3 other inmates stole some car keys.
Let me get the car.
Larry Chisholm.
No! Hey, stay back!
He dragged me out, led me out the door, and put me in the car. The escapee started shooting. The guards realized that they had a hostage, so they did not return fire. It was chaos. The whole time, my thoughts were that they were going to kill me. And I can remember at one point thinking, I wish they would just go ahead and do it. But eventually they decided to let me go. And they left town.
If you were in the Nashville or Dixon, Tennessee areas in the fall of 1978 and may have seen something or seen Larry Chisholm at any point since then, please contact us. We want to hear from you. No clue is too small. Yodit Tewolde is back, and we're going to bring in our AMW criminal avatar with age progression to show us what Larry Chisholm would look like today.
Okay.
So, what are we looking at?
So we're looking at a guy who's now 72 years old, and he was last reported weighing in around 160 pounds, right, at 5'10". Now, we know that his right hand was shot during that escape at that bowling alley, so he still may have a scar, a mark of some kind on that hand, and he may have actually lost a part of his thumb as well.
You can see that on the avatar. The tip of his thumb is missing.
Right,
Okay.
It looks like a nub, right?
Right.
Right. All right, well, the cool feature about these avatars is that we can actually show our viewers what Larry Chisholm would look like without the glasses, without the mustache, because he could completely change.
Wow. The mustache especially really changes his face. We know he always wore glasses, but he could have gotten contacts or LASIK surgery and will no longer be wearing them. We also know that he's got the ability to really ingratiate himself. Like he was able to convince prison authorities to give him the bowling alley field trip where the escape happened. What does this tell us about his MO on the run?
This guy's clever. He's smart, right? I mean, he was in his third year of law school and was still able to run a drug ring at the same time. He's quiet, he's unassuming, he, keeps a low profile on the inside. And so anybody that can do that in a high stressful place like prison that's heavily surveilled most certainly knows how to fly under the radar on the outside as well. So this guy's really, really clever.
All right. Thanks so much, Yodit. And send us your tips by calling us at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS or go to our website. Now, you are watching a gas station robbery in progress in the Bronx, New York. Pay close attention to the suspect's hands. You can see black gloves and what looks like a weapon. The NYPD says the robber might be pretending he has a gun, pointing his fingers at the cashier. After making demands, he tries to climb over the counter but stumbles over a wine rack. Then he struggles with the female employee. The suspect got away with about $1,000 cash. Were you at this gas station when it happened? Did you see anything? This is the Citgo station at the corner of Broadway and 260th Street in the Bronx. Look out for someone who's about 30 years old, 5'11", wearing a black jacket with fur, blue jeans, and black and yellow sneakers. You can help take the suspect off the streets. If you recognize him or saw anything in the area, send us your tips. 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS or amwtips.com.
After the break, Larry Chisholm has pulled off a daring escape from prison. And now he's about to outsmart everyone again. But AMW has new information that could land him back where he belongs, behind bars. And later, police say this financial advisor stole millions. Now he's on the loose, living large. You can help take him down.
Welcome back to America's Most Wanted. After our last episode aired, we got many tips from you at home. Keep them coming because there's no time to waste. Even the smallest tips could help. As it stands right now, America's Most Wanted catch counter is at 1,186 fugitives. And with your help, it just might go up tonight. Not only do we thank you, but investigators across the country thank you. And the victims of these crimes thank you. Because it's your tips that make the difference. Go to amwtips.com or 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS. You can always choose to remain anonymous. All right, back to Larry Chisholm, who pulled off a daring plan to escape during a prison outing at a local bowling alley, shooting one officer and taking a hostage as he fled the scene. But his story isn't over.
Larry Chisholm escaped in a shootout with correctional officers. Chisholm, along with 3 other inmates, grabbed one of the employees as a hostage. And they made their escape. A few days later, Chisholm turned up in Arkansas.
I was on patrol that day, and I heard over the radio there was a stolen truck. I flipped on the siren and started chasing him. Chisholm wrecked the truck. There wasn't a whole lot given to us over the radio, so didn't know how dangerous he was.
Chisholm was taken back into custody.
After only a few months in the Lone Oak County Jail in Arkansas, Chisholm came up with yet another escape plan.
He had another inmate crawl through the air vent, steal the guard's keys, then let him out. They overpowered the guard, stole his car keys, and drove off. A month after he escaped, he surfaced in Cincinnati, Ohio, and his crime spree continued. He walked into the First National Bank, posed as a U.S. Treasury official, showed the president what he claimed was a bomb, and demanded $250,000. He walked out and just disappeared. From there, we know that Chisholm spent years moving around parts of the Gulf Coast. He lived in Mobile, Alabama with a girlfriend, New Orleans, and in 1990, a tip led the FBI to a house in Charlotte, North Carolina.
By the time agents arrived at the house, it was abandoned.
It was clear Chisholm took off in a hurry. He left behind all kinds of clues on how he was managing to hide from authorities. He had laminating machines, books and magazines on things like how to change identity and appearance.
He also left a pay stub in the name of Kenneth Brookins, one of dozens of aliases that he was known to go by.
We know that in December of 1990, he sold his van in Atlanta, and there has been no sign of him since. Larry Chisholm is still out there.
He should not be allowed to be free. He had no regard for anybody else's life.
I feel confident there's some people that knows him, they know where he's at. I wish they would turn him in.
I can make 1,000 mistakes. I just need Larry Chisholm to make that one.
Since his second escape from jail, Larry Chisholm has gone undetected by authorities for more than 40 years. That is a lot of time, and there are a lot of you out there who could have come into contact with him. If Larry Chisholm looks familiar to you, please get in touch with us. Let's check in now with Paul Holes, who helped catch the Golden State Killer. There are a lot of places that Chisholm has been, a lot of anchor points.
That's right. And his strongest anchor point is in Arkansas. That is where he is born and raised. He likely still has family and friends there today. From Arkansas, he moves down to New Orleans. He actually gets into a relationship with a woman there. He's taking odd jobs in construction as he follows a friend from New Orleans up to Mobile, Alabama. From there, he relocates to Charlotte, North Carolina, gets into another relationship with a woman and her kids. He establishes a life. After a couple years, the whole family, including Chisholm, flees. He is next spotted down in Atlanta in 1990, and that's when he sells that van. He clearly has a preference for the southeastern part of the United States.
I'm struck, though, Paul, as you talk about all these anchor points, all the significant relationships that Larry Chisholm has established in all these various cities. Some of those relationships are no longer existing, correct?
That's right. Larry's moved on, but those people will still remember him today.
And those people could recognize him and call in. All right, it's very important for you at home to know that Chisholm is wanted for armed robbery, narcotics violations, and kidnapping, along with shooting and wounding a corrections officer. Contact us at America's Most Wanted at amwtips.com or 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS immediately. And contact us if you have any information on this next dangerous suspect. In this crime alert, watch these three landscapers hard at work in uptown New Orleans on the 400 block of Eleanor Street. But here comes trouble. Look at the white SUV on the right of your screen. Two men armed with guns jump out and rob the landscapers. Watch. The suspect in the blue hoodie points the gun at the victim's chest, literally reaches into the victim's pockets to get his cash, then heads to the truck to take another victim's wallet. The whole crime to catch them. Keep an eye out for these two suspects, one in a dark blue hoodie, the other in a yellow hoodie. The New Orleans Police Department says they drove off in this white Honda CR-V with temporary tags. Take a close look at this car. Were you in the area? Did you see it racing away? They need your help before the suspects strike again. Send us your tips by calling us at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS or amwtips.com.
Up next, a financial advisor goes rogue. He was supposed to be making money for his clients, but instead, police say he stole it all, millions, draining their life savings, even abandoning his own family to live large on the run. He's still out there, and we need your help to find him. Stay with us.
Welcome back. We've got another fugitive to add to our growing list. Christopher Burns, an investment advisor who was well known in the financial community, even making appearances on television to discuss his investment strategy. But allegedly, he had been stealing from his clients who trusted him, and now he's gone. But you can help us find him tonight.
Chris was really smart. He seemed to be incredibly caring. I always thought, this is a really humble guy.
You know, he walked into a room and you noticed him. He was very friendly. He was very open. He appeared to be very knowledgeable and very trustworthy.
He operated as a financial advisor here in the Atlanta metro area. He also had a local radio show.
You have so much less anxiety while everybody else is trying to figure out what to do.
And he also appeared on national broadcasts.
This economy and this market have proven resilient time and time again.
We gave our trust to Chris for some of our investments. It was the money that I said was the can't lose money because we have an autistic son. We wanted it invested for his future.
He used this money from investors to pay personal expenses. He lived in $1 million house on a lake. He had a boat, cars.
During that time, he came to me and said, I'm $100,000 in debt. Also, I haven't done my taxes in 2 years, and I had no idea.
Burns defrauded dozens of victims, totaling over $10 million. Some of the victims lost the inheritance, their savings, and all that they had.
I lost about $134,000. I thought I was well secured.
Chris defrauded so many people. I found out he had taken $150,000 from his parents. He has ruined their future. The last time I saw Chris, I was done. He said he was going to be back to see the kids. I called his phone twice and it just went straight to voicemail. I called his parents and they said, we haven't talked to Chris in weeks. And it was just in that moment, you know, that I just knew something was really wrong. So I called the police.
Mr. Burns had plenty of time to figure out what he was going to do when he disappeared. Burns is approximately 6'2", 240 pounds with brown hair. He also has tattoos on his forearm, 3 triangles that are interlaced.
If he can pull one over on me, he can pull one over on anyone. And that's a scary thought.
If I could send a message to Chris right now, I would say save a lot of people the pain, especially your children. These are good people. They're not millionaires. I just don't understand how you can do that to people.
Christopher Burns is very charismatic and confident, which helped him deceive a lot of people. You could be next. Contact us immediately if you have a tip about Chris Burns. And Paul is back. And Paul, this guy is accused of stealing millions and millions of dollars. How does he live on and use that money while on the run?
Well, he likely has been skimming money for years and not necessarily planning his escape, but to hide assets. And so he has the criminal sophistication to set up fake accounts in which he's got money moved into and probably has a sizable reservoir of cash that he can access.
Since money may be no object, we know that he could be just about anywhere. Let's go to the fugitive tracker and look at his anchor points first off.
Right. Well, 2 anchor points, of course, Berkeley Lake, Georgia, where he was living, as well as his parents up in North Carolina. Now, after he disappears, his car is found abandoned in an apartment parking lot in Dunwoody, Georgia. He didn't just randomly choose that location. He is a planner. He could have staged a car that he purchased with a fake ID and with cash.
It's a strange place to just abandon a car, but we also have another new anchor point out west.
That's right. His now ex-wife found out after he disappeared that he had been going to Las Vegas once a month for years. She now suspects that he was having an affair out there. Now, that relationship could be a lure for him, but where better for somebody with his financial criminal background to go?
Right. You could launder the money by buying casino chips. It's not unusual to have hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in a safe deposit box in Las Vegas. That happens.
That's right, and all those people he could con out there.
All right, Paul, thank you so much. And if you live near Las Vegas or have visited the Vegas area since October, let us know if you've seen Chris Burns. Remember, he has a distinctive tattoo of 3 triangles on his left forearm. So send us your tips. Specific identifying features like these are so important to finding these guys. One of our viewers tweeted about that very thing on last week's show. The avatar of Eugene Palmer really helped represent the deformed thumb to help identify him for capture. Keep your eyes peeled.
Coming up, these thieves are hitting it big, stealing lottery scratch-offs from several gas stations in Memphis. Can you identify these lucky suspects?
Welcome back to America's Most Wanted. In Tennessee, police are searching for brazen lottery ticket thieves who are targeting gas stations in the Hedge Hills neighborhood of Memphis. Watch these 2 men boldly snatch the scratcher boxes from the counter at the Hoppin convenience store at Summer and Graham on the evening of January 10th. They casually head for their getaway car, a burgundy Nissan. Can you believe these guys? And in the next video, these robbers must be feeling lucky because you can see 2 men entering another hop-in at Union and Cleveland around 5 p.m. on January 21st, where they steal boxes of lottery tickets and run off. Here's a look at the suspects in that case. They're both wearing blue shirts. They got away in a white minivan. Help the Memphis police hit the big one and get these guys. Here's another look at the suspects. Do you know who they are? Send us your tips at 1-8333-AMW-TIPS or amwtips.com. All right, let's take one last look at the fugitives who are still at large from the cases we featured tonight. Tamara Williams, police suspect she murdered her boyfriend, dismembered his body, and then scattered it along an Ohio interstate. She's now 42 years old. She has a large rose tattoo on her left arm that goes up to her shoulder. She was last suspected to be in the Bronx, New York. Crime Stoppers is offering $5,000 for information that leads to her arrest. Larry Chisholm, on his second AMW appearance, is still on the run as one of the U.S. Marshals most wanted. Quiet and unassuming, Chisholm is now 72 and is known to have several aliases. He was last seen in Atlanta in 1990. The U.S. Marshals are offering a reward of up to $25,000 for information that leads to his arrest. And Christopher Burns, 38 years old, he's allegedly stolen millions of dollars in life savings from his victims. He may or may not currently have a beard and has a distinguishing tattoo on his left forearm of 3 black interlaced triangles. Send us your tips at 1-8333-AMW-TIPS or at our website, amwtips.com. Coming up next week on America's Most Wanted, this couple ran a successful boating business until one of their passengers on a family vacation died on a boat that officials say was too dangerous to be at sea.
Once the boat began to go down, it was on the bottom in under a minute.
The 2 were charged with manslaughter, but they fled sailing into the sunset and have been on the run ever since. I'm Elizabeth Vargas. Thank you so much for watching tonight. Let's catch these fugitives.
I'm John Walsh, and I've dedicated my entire life to locking up the worst criminals. Since 1988, we've caught 1,191 fugitives.
We're tracking down one of the most ruthless gangs of lawbreakers we've ever gone after,
including several of the FBI's most wanted. And we've reunited dozens of missing children with their families.
Do miracles still exist? Yes. And we have Elizabeth back.
But the job continues, and this time, my son Callahan joins the fight. With your help, we're going to put more low-life criminals behind bars. including these that you'll see tonight. First, Luis and Vanessa Ramirez, both convicted of sexually exploiting a minor. They're now wanted for violently attacking a social worker and kidnapping their 2 children after losing custody. We're also on the lookout for the man accused of murdering his wife on their wedding night, FBI top 10 fugitive Arnaldo Jimenez. And finally, Tyler Wilkinson is accused of possessing hundreds of fentanyl-laced pills and selling the ones that killed 17-year-old Brooke Badger. America's Most Wanted, the original true crime series, is back. You can run, but you can't hide. Hello, everyone. I'm John Walsh, and this is America's Most Wanted. You know, I gotta say that I'm thrilled to be back. After my 6-year-old son Adam was abducted and murdered in 1981, I dedicated my life to giving a voice to the voiceless, helping victims of senseless crimes get the justice that they and their families so deserve. Well, today we need this show more than ever. And lucky for us, we now have more tools at our disposal to catch these criminals, like age progression technology, GPS tracking, advanced DNA profiling, and ever-expanding social media. So follow along at Fox TV and spread the word about all the fugitives you've seen tonight. As always, we have a great team of expert investigators working alongside with us, with local and state police and the FBI. They're all standing by to take your tips because you are our partner in this. It's you that can make a difference. Whether you call 1-866-AMW-TIPS or visit our website, amwtips.com. I guarantee you can remain anonymous. We don't need to know who you are or where you live. We need your tips. Joining me in this fight is someone who shares my passion for justice, my son Callahan. He grew up on the set of this show and is now an executive director at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and one hell of an advocate for children.
Thanks, Dad. Being part of a family where someone had been taken from us, like Adam was, we always said that we want to make sure that he didn't die in vain. So I'm honored to follow you in your footsteps and continue this legacy you started nearly 40 years ago.
Well, we're glad to have you on board. So let's get right to work. Our first case is about a terrible Tucson couple, Luis and Andrea, AKA Vanessa Ramirez, who in May of 2018 had just been arraigned on an alarming 20 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor and were days away from standing trial for these alleged horrendous crimes. Because of their charges, they lost custody of their 2 small children, Luis Jr. and Camila.
Luis and Vanessa never showed up to their trial. Instead, they vanished into thin air. But not before police say they violently assaulted a child protective services worker in broad daylight in order to abduct the 2 innocent children.
Well, they're still on the run, and we really need your help to find them as soon as possible. Take a good look.
I've been married for 20 years, and when I first came into the family, my husband's family is very welcoming. All his brothers and his sisters, his parents, and of course, my brother-in-law, Luis. He had aspirations of being an artist. Luis did go to church with his parents. There, he met Vanessa. That's when everything changed. We just started seeing Luis go downhill. The path that we thought he was going, he was deviating from. And then Vanessa gives birth to Luisito. We were excited to have a new family member, but at the same time, it was a worry of how they were going to support this new baby. Things got worse. Luis and Vanessa and Luisito move in with my in-laws. There's certain things that toddlers do, and Luisito wasn't doing.
He was 3 years old and not talking and not potty trained, which are really crucial for development. And it was a real worry.
But we had no idea the extent of what was going on. In 2016, I learned that Luis was being sexually inappropriate with a minor.
The victim, she was 13 years old. Luis Ramirez was engaging in sexually motivated activities with her. Vanessa Ramirez was involved in those activities. They would touch her, paint her body, photograph her, put her in sexually explicit positions. This had been going back several years. In 2016, Based on the allegations, detectives searched the home. They did locate 3 firearms. One was an AR-15, one was a pump-action shotgun, and the other was a 9mm handgun. They were actually in the reach of their young child. During the search, along with the firearms, they also located several pieces of electronic devices. Detectives were able to locate several images of the victim that corroborated her statements about the sexual exploitation she had faced. Because we found evidence of sexual abuse of a minor and the fact those loaded weapons were in such easy access to the child, we used those as charges, and we also used that as justification to remove Luis Jr. from the home for his safety.
To know that this was going on behind the scenes, that my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law was capable of doing these disgusting things with a minor, it's shameful.
Because Luisito wasn't able to talk, it's hard to know if he witnessed the abuse going on.
But we jumped into action and decided to bring Luisito into our home. Luisito came to us in November 2016. He was full of love. He wanted to be loved. Luisito was very much a part of our family. He just fit in like a missing puzzle piece.
No way!
We were able to get Luis potty trained, and he started learning how to speak. The changes that we saw with him, they were good changes. He was a completely different child. And then we learned that Vanessa was pregnant again.
When Camila was born, Child Protective Services immediately removed her from their care for her safety. They asked the aunt and uncle if they would be open to fostering her as well. Almost all of us have kids, and dealing with these crimes, unfortunately, you see your child in some of these investigations thinking, dear God, you'd never want them to go through anything like what these children have gone through. So when we take steps to remove a child from a home, it is not taken lightly. We're doing it for the absolute benefit of the child to keep them safe. April of 2018, Luis and Vanessa were both indicted with 20 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor and 1 count of child abuse. Following the arraignment, because the victim for the sexual exploitation was not their child, both Luis and Vanessa were released, believing that they had no access to the victim. Before the trial, the court allowed Luis and Vanessa a supervised visit with their 2 children.
The morning of May 4th, 2018, we sent Luisito and Camila out the door with the caseworker, and that's where we saw them for the very last time. Luis and Vanessa kidnapped the kids.
Joining us in studio to tell us more about this case is the victim's aunt, Erica Ramirez.
Thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate that you guys are getting Luis and Camila's story out there to the world.
Absolutely.
Now, before you got custody of the kids, how did you know something maybe wasn't quite right?
I can remember back about a week before we got custody. Luis wasn't talking. He would blink his eyes if he wanted to say yes. He would point to things that he wanted. He baby talked. And this was about a week before his 4th birthday.
Obviously, you had concerns. What was your reaction when a caseworker told you that Vanessa and Luis would end up in jail at some point?
I couldn't believe it. I was astonished at the things that they were telling us. I was worried about what could happen when they were on their visits with their parents.
How about the first night without those kids?
Thinking back to that first night, it was heart-wrenching. I cried all night long. We waited all night for somebody to come knocking, for the phone to ring that they found them. We had hope in the Amber Alert that, they were going to be found. And when we did go home, the toys were everywhere. Camila's jumper, Luisito's, toys that he had. And it was just a broken heart all over again, just emptiness.
Unbearable. It reminds me of the first night that Adam went missing. You come back to the house and all of his toys and all of his things were there. I will remember vividly that first night of saying, what has happened to my child?
That's how we felt.
You know, it's unfortunate, but oftentimes it's the families that is what it takes to keep these stories going, to keep them in the media, to keep people out there looking for these kids. And you're doing that by being here today. We'll never stop searching for these kids. We'll never give up hope. So thank you for being here, Erica.
Thank you.
If you have any information about Luis and Vanessa Ramirez, contact us immediately. You can always choose to remain anonymous. 1-866-AMW-TIPS or amwtips.com.
When we return, more information about Luis and Vanessa Ramirez on how they abducted their children and their possible whereabouts. Plus, Elizabeth Smart joins us to talk about this case with her firsthand experience and knowledge of child abductions. And later, cops in Boise need your help to find Jacob Dean Smart, a low-life serial stalker wanted in 3 states. Help us find this creep.
Well, you did it again. The notorious Texas 7 had the entire state of Texas and then the whole country in terror. A vicious gang of convicts, including murderers, serial rapists, and a child beater, busted out of prison. Then you came through with a tip that took them all down. Thanks to you, they're going back to prison where they belong.
Now, this week is the 23rd anniversary of that monumental catch. Like I said before, and I'll say it over and over again, you really can make a difference. Because of you, we've caught a total of 1,191 fugitives on America's Most Wanted. So let's get that number even higher. Luis and Vanessa Ramirez weren't fit to be parents, but no one could have guessed what they were about to do next. It will both shock and terrify anyone who's ever cared about a child.
Hello? Tucson Police Department, do you have an emergency?
Yes, I do. I was tied up in the woods.
Tucson Police receives a phone call from a lady who had been bound to a tree. A gentleman who was walking the area of Silver Lake Park found her. It was a social worker with the Department of Child Safety, and she had been conducting a supervised visit with both Luis and Vanessa for their 2 small children. She explains that at one point, Luis moves to the side of her, and as he does so, he does produce a taser and actually activates it. Grabs her arm, forcing it behind her. Luis, he ended up getting her to a tree. He bound her hands and her legs using the zip ties and the duct tape. He then took her bag and he left the area. Time was of the essence. We were trying to get coordination with the border. We have such close proximity to Mexico. The next morning, we were able to locate the suspect's vehicle parked near the border, and were able to locate video of them crossing into Mexico on foot.
My hope is that someone out there is watching and can find them, because my worry is that they're not safe. Luisito and Camila, we love you so much, and we have never stopped looking for you. And we're gonna get that call. And it's time to pick you up. It's time for you to come home.
Well, now we're joined by Elizabeth Smart, who made national headlines in 2002 when at age 14, she was kidnapped from her very own bedroom in Salt Lake City, Utah. 9 months later, 2 citizens recognized her and her captors less than a month after we featured them on an episode of America's Most Wanted. They alerted the authorities and she was rescued. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here tonight. You are not only an advocate and an activist for missing persons and child safety, but you are a very strong survivor and someone I'm really proud to work alongside in the fight to make this world a safer place for all of us.
Well, thank you for highlighting me 20 plus years ago, and thank you for having me back today.
It's always great to see you.
Now, when it comes to the parental abductions, they're very complicated. And from working at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, we've had a ton of experience with these types of cases. And what a lot of people don't know is that most kidnappings are actually done by a family member or parent. In fact, in 2022, For 58% of Amber Alerts were actually for family-based abductions. Now, Elizabeth, what's been your experience working on missing children's cases where it's actually a parent who's abducted the child?
Those are some of the most heartbreaking cases because the public sits there and thinks, well, a parent took them, they're not really going to hurt their own child. But as you know, as I know, parents are the people who are supposed to love and protect you with every part of their soul, and yet they're the very ones hurting you. That's the deepest kind of betrayal I can imagine.
When you were abducted by strangers, they took you out in public multiple times. What might someone notice about a child with an adult out in public that might tip them off that something maybe isn't quite right?
For the public, I think you do have to trust your gut. If something feels off, pick up the phone and call in. I mean, I might not be here today had someone else not trusted their gut and picked up their phone and called. Call the police or call in, because at least hopefully we can help rescue a child. And to Luisito and Camila, hold on to each other, believe in each other. And if you are being hurt, know that that's not normal. You shouldn't be hurt. You shouldn't be neglected. You shouldn't be forced to do things you don't want to do, or if your name is being changed, that's not normal behavior. And know that there are people here searching for you and loving you and wanting you back.
That's great advice.
Couldn't agree with you more.
And certainly, if you have the chance to get away safely, if you have the chance to scream or kick or yell, and I fully recognize that does not come naturally, take it.
You know, there's nothing more inspiring than standing beside a survivor who makes it their life mission to make sure no other human being has to endure the pain that they've been through. We really appreciate you being here tonight, Elizabeth. I'm so proud of you. You're one of the strongest survivors I've ever met, and you're a great mom.
Thank you.
Now, the last time they were seen, Luis had brown hair and brown eyes. He's 5'6" and weighs 230 pounds. Andrea goes by Vanessa. She's 5'1" and weighs 220 pounds with curly brown hair and brown eyes. But be aware, they could have changed their appearance dramatically.
We have an AMW age progression of each of the Ramirez children to show what they may look like now in 2024. Remember, this is a family of 4 that could be traveling together, and at this point, they may have even had more children. Luis Jr., also known as Luisito, is now 11 years old. He may be smaller in stature for his age. His sister Camila is now 5. They both have black hair and brown eyes.
Luis and Andrea, aka Vanessa Ramirez, haven't been seen since May of 2018. Their car, a green Toyota Camry, was found later near the Mexican border. Surveillance video also captured them crossing it the very next day. So if you've seen the Ramirezes, do not approach them. And to our friends in Mexico and Central America, we want to hear from you too. Please send us your tips. Call 1-866-AMW-TIPS or go to amwtips.com. Remember, you can always, and we guarantee it, remain anonymous. Coming up, police say Arnaldo Jimenez brutally murdered his bride on their wedding night. And then, a brazen drug dealer sells a teenager deadly counterfeit pills before going on the run. And later, the Hill's Audrina Patridge and her sister, Casey Loza, join the fight against one of the deadliest epidemics our country has ever faced.
But first, throughout the episode tonight, we'll be bringing you crime alerts from across the country, some that could be even happening in your very own community. Can you help us identify and catch these suspects?
Chilling footage of a wanted serial stalker kicking open the door of a home near Boise Ave and Chrisway Drive in Boise, Idaho. His name is Jacob Dean Smart, and police say he's wanted in at least 7 cases across Idaho, Washington, and Oregon. This creep allegedly follows his victim's home and breaks into their residences later. Once he's inside this home, he steals a firearm and some women's underwear, which he's known for taking from many of his victims' homes. He's a 38-year-old white male with brown hair and brown eyes, standing 5'11" and weighing 200 pounds. If you have any information about Jacob Dean Smart, call us at 866-AMW-TIPS or go to amwtips.com. Welcome back to America's Most Wanted. Our next case tonight involves a dirtbag who police accuse of murdering his beautiful bride on their wedding night and then skipping town before anyone could piece together what had happened. His name, Arnaldo Jimenez.
My sister Estrella was the life of the party. You heard her before you even saw her. She was loud, happy. She was always laughing.
She was my best friend. We did everything together. We've known each other since we were 4 years old, went to high school together, had our babies together at the same time.
My sister Estrella had her first child, Genevieve, when she was only 17. That relationship with the father didn't work out. She just wanted to enjoy her daughter and her life since she was still very young.
Hey, the camera.
One night, she met Arnaldo at a nightclub. He was a construction worker, yet he was always taking her to flashy clubs, getting her jewelry.
She would often tell me how much she loved this man and how she wanted to spend the rest of her life with him.
After about 4 months, she became pregnant, which was definitely not planned, but she embraced it. She loved her kids, and she decided to try to make it work.
I asked to be interviewed in Silhouette because I know what kind of person Arnold is. I lived in fear with my mom for years.
Arnaldo was possessive, jealous. One time, she had to come to my house with the kids. She had bruises on her. She would tell me that you don't know what he's capable of. So when she told me she was getting married, it was a shock.
The family feared that perhaps Arnaldo was pressuring Estrella to marry him.
Estrella dreamt about having a big wedding. That's all she ever wanted to do. But she decided to go to City Hall and get married with him. Estrella and Arnaldo were the only ones at the courthouse.
They rented a party bus that same day, and they were gonna go club hopping. I couldn't go, so last minute I couldn't find a babysitter. I just heard she looked beautiful. Everybody was partying, drinking, and having a good time. The next day, we had a big family event. But when she didn't show up by 6 p.m., we hadn't gotten a hold of her. She hadn't gotten the kids. That's when we knew something was wrong.
The family called asking for a welfare check, so Burbank PD went to Estrella's house to check on her.
When we got there, the cops were already blocking the doorway.
Stay right there.
Everything from there is just blur.
Police enter Estrella's house. Hello? Everything looked normal. They find Estrella's body in the bathtub, wearing the same silver cocktail dress she was wearing at her wedding reception.
She had been stabbed 18 times.
And that's when I see the ambulance. It has no sound. Because they're not coming to help somebody. That's when I realized she's gone.
We're here with Estrella's sister, Jasmine Carrera. Now, first of all, Jasmine, we are so sorry for your loss. As someone who's lost a son myself, I know what it's like to go through something like this. So beyond incredibly painful.
Jasmine, seeing your sister go through this type of relationship, on average, it takes women about 7 attempts to successfully leave an abusive partner for good. What would you tell someone else out there who might be experiencing this, who's watching this right now?
It's very hard for them to let go. Be patient. To please don't give up on them. Be supportive.
And you not only lost your sister, but these 2 children lost their mother. But you were happy to step into that role. What does it feel like to be a second mom to Estrella's kids?
For me, it's rewarding because I know that my sister would have done the same for me.
What would it mean to you and your family to see Arnaldo locked up for this murder?
It would be peace of mind to know that she had justice, that, everything that she went through, it's not going to go unsolved.
Well, I want to thank you for your courage. I know you never give up on this case, and I'm hoping we're going to catch this coward.
I have a lot of faith this show will bring us some kind of justice and closure for us.
I know firsthand that it can. Now, Jimenez is one of the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives. There's a reward of $250,000 for any information that leads to his arrest.
As of the last time he was seen, Jimenez weighed 225 pounds, is 6 feet tall with black hair and brown eyes. He is considered armed and very dangerous. If you see him, do not approach him. Instead, call us at 1-866-AMW-TIPS or go to our website, amwtips.com. You can always remain anonymous. We guarantee that. And we're standing by to take your tips.
When we come back, we have more disturbing details about alleged murderer Arnaldo Jimenez and where he may be hiding. Later, we need your help identifying these alleged carjackers in Maryland. You can run, but you can't hide. Welcome back to America's Most Wanted. Arnaldo Jimenez was a low-life scumbag who police say ruthlessly murdered Estrella Carrera on their wedding night. Now, he's still out there, but his time is running out.
My mother was a wife for not even 24 hours, and her life was taken from her.
Investigators learned that after Estrella and Arnaldo got married at City Hall, they rented a party bus around 11 p.m. Their plan was to travel around Chicago and celebrate with their friends and family. They stop at a liquor store and buy alcohol for their guests. From the liquor store surveillance footage, the couple appears to be happy. They look like newlyweds. Then, according to eyewitness reports, around 2 a.m., they drive to a nightclub on the north side of Chicago. Partygoers tell detectives while at the club, some sort of conflict occurs between the couple. Witnesses say they saw Estrella crying. Then later that night, around 3:30 a.m., the newlyweds leave the club. They both get into his Maserati and drive off. And that's the last time Estrella is seen alive. After the night of the murder, Arnaldo Jimenez fled. Even though no murder weapon was found, investigators had enough evidence to secure a warrant for his arrest. Authorities found that Arnaldo was arrested on drug charges in 2007. Turns out, Estrella and her family could never prove he was a construction worker, but believed he was a drug dealer.
One time she mentioned how she loved this man, but that she knew that he was going to be the death of her. I'll never forget that conversation.
In September of 2012, 4 months after Estrella's murder, investigators found Arnaldo's 2006 Maserati in a residential garage and discovered blood in the interior. The blood samples tested positive for Estrella. This further confirmed that the man she married was the suspected murderer, Arnaldo Jimenez.
Knowing that my mom will never make it to any of my big milestones is something that I have to live with for my whole life. But knowing how much love my mother had for me, I have to continue on her legacy.
We have an AMW age progression of Arnaldo Jimenez showing what he may look like now with both short and longer hair. Last he was seen, he had black hair and brown eyes, 6 feet tall and weighing 225 pounds.
Jimenez previously resided in Chicago, Illinois. Authorities say he may have fled to Durango, Mexico, specifically in the area of Santiago Papasquiaro. He may also frequent Reynosa, Tamaulipas, Mexico. There's a reward of $250,000 for any information that leads to his arrest. Call us at 1-866-AMW-TIPS or go to our website, amwtips.com. And remember, you can always remain anonymous.
When we come back, a young girl is dead after buying counterfeit pills from a scumbag dealer on social media. But now, here's a crime alert that we need your help with. You're about to watch a terrifying and violent assault and robbery at gunpoint that occurred at 5200 North Masher Street in Philadelphia last October. 4 unknown suspects barge into Bally's Pizzeria around 12:30 a.m., hoods up and faces covered. They demand an employee who was closing up for the night give them access to the cash register. And these scumbags get exactly what they came for, over $3,000 in cash. But it's not enough, as one perp points his gun at the victim and demands he empty his pockets as well. After the suspects have taken everything they can, they make their way out. The suspects pulled up in a white SUV, possibly a GMC Acadia, with a partial Pennsylvania tag, JFK 44, and were last seen going south on North Masher Street. If you have any information about these suspects or this incident, send us your tips at 1-866-AMW-TIPS or at amwtips.com. Welcome back. The latest data from the National Institute on Drug Abuse says 100,000 people die from drug overdoses every year, and half of those deaths are related to synthetic opioids, primarily fentanyl. And in our next case, after just a few exchanges on the social media app Snapchat, a 17-year-old with her whole life ahead of her acquired the pills that would kill her, and the low-life drug dealer with a shady history is still on the run.
We could tell at a very young age that Brooke was very artistic. That's what made her unique. She struggled with depression and anxiety during COVID, and I noticed that she was using social media a lot more. Brooke had just graduated high school and was so excited about going off to college. In the morning of June 18, I was headed downstairs for my second cup of coffee, and I immediately knew something was wrong. I opened up Brooke's bedroom door. I couldn't see her face, but her body was extremely pale. Her fingers were curled up and stiff. I remember letting out a loud scream.
We got a call that there was a death in the city of Lake Forest and that it was possibly an overdose.
They discovered her Snapchat account, chat messages with a drug dealer who sold her counterfeit pills the day before she passed away.
I was able to identify the suspect, Tyler Wilkinson, a 23-year-old Orange County resident arrested multiple times for narcotics.
The drug dealers started selling drugs on social media platforms, and unfortunately, some of the big problems with platforms like Snapchat are anonymity and destruction of messages. It makes it incredibly difficult for parents to monitor what their kids are doing.
We stumbled upon the drug dealer's menu for the day. Brooke saved those messages. Otherwise, the messages would have disappeared.
Brooke ultimately died from counterfeit oxycodone pills, with the primary drug being fentanyl.
Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid, 50 times more powerful than heroin. We've really seen it dominate the drug landscape here in the United States for the past 5 to 6 years. It doesn't take much of this drug to kill.
I received a call from the DEA, Tyler David Wilkinson. There was a warrant out for his arrest, but he's in hiding.
A fentanyl dealer on the run is dangerous. It's likely that he's still selling drugs, he's still harming people. We need to help find him.
I don't want any other family to go through what I have gone through. I will never, ever give up until justice is served.
We're here now with Brooke's mother, Han Badger. Han, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you, John, for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Now, you're actually a pharmacist, which must have made losing Brooke just that much more heartbreaking. You know firsthand about the fentanyl epidemic, but these kids don't think they're taking fentanyl. In their minds, you have to take it by itself for it to be fatal.
It's a huge misconception. It's a fentanyl poisoning crisis that we have here in America, John. It takes just a very small amount, equivalent to a few grains of salt, to be lethal. In Brooke's case, she thought she was taking Roxicet, a prescription that contains oxycodone and acetaminophen or Tylenol. She had no idea that it was a counterfeit pill that was going to end her life.
It's so deadly, isn't it? So
It's
deadly.
deadly and devastating.
Yeah. Now, you and dozens of other parents have filed a lawsuit against Snapchat for allowing this kind of activity on their platform. What do you hope to get out of this lawsuit?
To save lives so that no other family has to go through this.
Well, we wish you all the luck in the world. And thank you for being here and taking on this huge epidemic.
Thanks, John.
We contacted Snapchat for a comment, and they said that, quote, "We have deep empathy for families who have suffered unimaginable losses and are working diligently to stop drug dealers from abusing the platform." And now we're joined by another family who knows the devastation this drug can cause. Audrina Patridge from the Hills and her sister, Casey Loza. Thank you all for being here. Casey, your daughter Sadie was only 15 years old when she passed away from fentanyl in February of last year. You haven't publicly spoken about her death. What made you want to come here tonight and share your story?
You got this.
Sure.
I chose to come on the show today because today would have been her 16th birthday. Let's figure out what's going on and try to create change.
You are so brave. She's your strength. She's proud of you for coming here, and so are we.
She would have wanted you to do this.
I mean, she was beautiful. She was so smart. She was so smart. Ever since she was little, people, her teachers would be like, I'm voting for her for president. Like, I've never met a more compassionate, ambitious, intelligent, caring little girl. She was just full of energy, and she was so talented.
She sounds amazing. You know, everyone thinks it can't happen to you. But it only takes one pill, one time, and you've lost your little girl. You know what bothers me so much is when people say, oh, that kid was a drug addict. No, they take one pill. You can take an Adderall to study for a college exam. It'll kill you from the fentanyls in there.
It's not just
a marijuana
hard drugs. It's a weed gummy. Like,
absolutely.
We got in a car accident and she really hurt her hip, her lower back. It was like after a month of doctors, you know, ice and massage and this and.
So she was suffering from chronic pain due to that car accident, and that's why she was seeking some relief from that.
Yeah.
Percocet for back pain.
She thought she got Percocet. I mean, they have phones, they're smart, they have the internet. They grew up with having anything you want at access. They're like, oh, I have a migraine and here's a menu. Like, it's crazy how easy and accessible it is. And these guys know that, and they're instantly gone and they disappear.
Absolutely.
These transactions are happening so fast. It's hard for law enforcement even to catch up.
And I think this day and age, no one has ever dealt with this. It's an epidemic. And that's why I want to use my platform to bring awareness, because we as parents and adults, like, we need to figure out what to do to fix it.
Exactly. And you can't protect your child from an enemy you don't understand.
We always say at the National Center, it's about empowering children to make those safe and smart decisions, recognize those risky situations, and learn how to avoid them.
Thank you. And thank you for starting this show and all of the people that you've caught. And I'm sorry for your loss as well.
God bless you. First year is always the toughest, and you got your best friend here taking care of you, looking out for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Alarming video coming out of Bethesda, Maryland, where a gang of brazen criminals hold a man at gunpoint in an attempted carjacking in the 7300 block of Wisconsin Ave. The suspect's maroon Nissan Rogue pulls up to the victim, who is standing outside of his 2022 Porsche 911. One of the men gets out of the Nissan, gun in hand, to demand the victim's keys. The other suspects jump out to help his pal, who is threatening the victim, just off camera. But their accomplice in the Nissan is getting impatient. After hitting the victim in the head with a gun, two of them return to their getaway car, while the third gets in the driver's seat of the Porsche 911. But there's a problem. The thief can't drive the Porsche's manual transmission. They fled the car and the scene, and now Montgomery County PD needs your help to track them down. If you recognize any of these suspects, let us know right away by calling 1-866-AMW-TIPS or visiting us at amwtips.com. It's your tips that can help us bust these bad guys. Let's take one more look at the fugitives that are still on the loose tonight. First, Luis and Andrea, aka Vanessa Ramirez. Luis has brown hair and brown eyes. He's 5'6" and weighs 230 pounds. Andrea, who goes by Vanessa, is 5'1" and weighs 220 pounds. Here are the images of their children with AMW age progression and what they might look like today. Luis Jr., now 11, and Camila, now 5.
Next, Arnaldo Jimenez, wanted for first-degree murder of his wife Estrella on their wedding night. He is 6 feet tall, weighing 225 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He is considered armed and very dangerous. There's a reward of $250,000 for any information that leads to his arrest.
And finally, in Southern California, 25-year-old drug dealer Tyler David Wilkinson. He stands 6 feet tall, weighing 155 pounds, with brown hair and hazel eyes. He has a tattoo of a lion on his right forearm.
If you have any information, do not hesitate to call us at 1-866-AMW-TIPS or go to amwtips.com. Coming up next week on America's Most Wanted, a beloved high school football coach is gunned down, shot 6 times at point-blank range. We have new, exclusive, never-before-seen information about this senseless murder. Let's give his family the justice they deserve. I'm Callahan Walsh.
And I'm John Walsh, and thank you for watching. And remember, you can make a difference.
America's Most Wanted is the most successful show in television history at catching America's most dangerous fugitives.
Tonight, his luck runs out.
More than 1,100 suspects captured because of your tips. Now, we are back. And we need your help again to bust the most ruthless fugitives on the run today. We're using incredible new crime-fighting technology and social media to connect us at lightning speeds. All night, we'll be sharing new information about fugitives on the loose right now, maybe living right next door to you. First, this couple, Allison Gracie and Christopher Jones, wanted for manslaughter on the high seas.
I needed to tell my daughter her mom was gone.
We give you the clues to help track them down. Next, a husband and father brutally murdered after an affair.
Police now considering the missing man to be a victim of foul play.
His killer on the run, and police need your help finding the murderer. And Lester Eubanks, a convicted child killer who escaped police custody more than 45 years ago.
We're not going to give up. One day, that knock on the door is going to be us.
Have you seen him? Tonight, you're our best shot at catching these dangerous fugitives. This is America's Most Wanted.
Welcome to America's Most Wanted. I'm Elizabeth Vargas, and tonight we're coming to you from our high-tech headquarters, armed with new evidence, new clues, and new sightings of some of the most dangerous and cunning fugitives this country has ever seen. And our new technology is playing a key role in our hunt, including these incredible life-sized AMW criminal avatars, showing you at home every single identifying detail you'll need to help catch these fugitives once and for all. Tonight, we have some incredible news to begin with. Your tips have helped authorities catch the very first fugitive of this season here at America's Most Wanted. Do you remember this shocking video that we aired in our first episode just 2 weeks ago? This is a man named Philip Michael Dent, brutally attacking a woman at the Atlantis Car Wash on South Federal Circle in Littleton, Colorado. He violently tries to drag her out of her van so he can steal it. The victim is 63 years old and puts up quite a fight, even after he bites her during the struggle. He finally yanks her out of the vehicle and drives off. He was on the loose until one of you at home saw this and took action, calling in a tip. As a result, police in Littleton, Colorado have arrested Dent only 3 days after our show aired. You helped us get justice in this case. Take a look. Here he is again in a car, but this time it's a police car. Our catch counter has stood at 1,186 fugitives for nearly a decade now. And because of viewer tips and the return of AMW on Fox, that number has just gone up to 1,187. Let's move it even higher. All right, our first case. These married British fugitives were charged with manslaughter after a young mother died on a diving charter boat they owned and operated in the Florida Keys. They fled and have managed to evade authorities all over the world. And tonight, they could be anywhere. We need your help.
Amy was a very hands-on, very, very warm, loving mother. There was nothing like being loved by Amy. When she loved you, she threw her whole self into loving you. And when we had a child together, she threw the same full, loving devotion that she'd shown me into our child, and then some.
In December 2011, we decided as a family to go to Florida to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of my father's passing. We used to go to Florida for our family vacations, so we wanted to commemorate his life by going there and scattering his ashes. When we went on this trip, it was just the core family, including my sister, Amy, and her family.
Towards the end of the trip, Amy decided that she wanted to go scuba diving.
We made reservations at Key Largo Scuba Shack because we looked at TripAdvisor. We selected them for their high ratings. It looked like a credible business. We were wrong.
The Scuba Shack was owned by Christopher Jones and Allison Gracie. They came to Florida to run a dive business. They owned a vessel called the Get Wet that took paying passengers to different dive spots around the Florida Keys. But there's a criminal matter to which that vessel was operated. The vessel had broken down several times and had to be towed in. There were mechanical issues, but they didn't care. They didn't fix it. They refused. In addition to all the problems, the vessel was illegally documented, and it was not going through regular Coast Guard inspections. They also hired a very young, very inexperienced captain. Jones and Gracie decided to make profit any way possible, even if it meant illegal activity.
It really was a matter of time before that boat went down. On the morning of the scuba diving trip, I remember it saying, "Good luck and have fun." I gave Amy a kiss. And then she walked away. That was the last time I saw her.
On December 18, 2011, the Get Wet left for Molasses Reef. By the time the afternoon rolled in, the conditions worsened. The seas kicked up to about 3 to 4 feet. Water flooded onto the deck and into the engine room, which caused the boat to rock from side to side. The captain asked the passengers to move from side to side to counteract the rocking of the boat. This is a mistake. It increases the flow of water, greatly diminishing the stability of the vessel.
The boat capsized.
Once the boat began to go down, it was on the bottom in under a minute. As the boat sank, 2 crew and 4 passengers were able to grab a life raft.
But there were 2 people that were trapped in the boat as it went down, and Amy was one of them.
The captain went down to look for them. He found the first passenger, and his life was saved. The captain then went back down to look for Amy Rhodes. The captain found Amy trapped against the bulkhead. He was able to free her and then return to the surface with her. But unfortunately, EMS pronounced her dead at the scene.
If you've seen Allison Gracie or Christopher Jones in the Bahamas, the Caribbean, or any other tourist hotspot, call us and go to our website. Even with U.S. and international warrants out for their arrest, these two fugitives have managed to evade authorities. So your tips are crucial to finding them. Former prosecutor and legal analyst Yodit Tewolde is here, and we've used our age progression technology to create AMW 3D avatars of Allison Gracie and Christopher Jones. Let's start with Allison. What are we looking at?
So we're looking at a woman who's 53, about 5'7", weighing about 145. Now, she was born in Ireland, so she has an Irish accent according to authorities. And she's typically been a blonde, but she's been on the run for so long that she might have changed her look up a bit. So we can actually show our viewers what she'd look like with darker hair.
Oh, wow. That's quite a difference.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go on to Christopher Jones and his criminal avatar. What are we looking at here?
So we're looking at a man who's 56, and he's a tall guy at 6'3", and he weighs about 275. Now, he also speaks with an accent, but a British one. But an interesting note to make here, Elizabeth, is that he's known to wear aviators. He wore them often, so we can actually give our viewers a visual.
You're a former prosecutor. Yes. Both of these two have been charged with involuntary manslaughter, even though they weren't on the boat or even at the business that day. There is ample evidence they knew that boat was unsafe.
These two were obviously more concerned about making money. They weren't concerned about the safety and the lives of their passengers. And that was made clear because they were warned repeatedly about the safety problems, from the Coast Guard to employees to mechanics, and they all went ignored, right? They even went as far as reducing the amount of passengers that were allowed on board in order to avoid further inspection from the Coast Guard.
All right, thanks so much, Yodit. And investigators need your help to find these two who were still on the run. Take a good look at them. Send us your tips by going to our website, amwtips.com, or call us at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS. And follow, like, and find us on social media at Most Wanted on Fox for all the information on these criminals and more. We love seeing you interact with the show, like this Twitter user who said, I put the AMW number in my phone. Let's catch these criminals and get the justice the families deserve. I like that enthusiasm. Let's do it. And there's another dangerous criminal on the run tonight. Check out this crime alert. There's a suspect on a crime spree in Pierce County, Washington, and police need your help to stop him. Take a look. Surveillance cameras show the guy walking into the Columbia Bank on Meridian Avenue East in Puyallup on February 1st. He waits several minutes for someone to help him. Eventually, he sits down with a teller and slides her a note saying he has a gun. He never showed the weapon. The clerk gives him some money and he walks out of the bank to his car, a Ford Edge. Police say the same suspect robbed 2 gas stations in the area the night before. Here's another look. He's wearing a mask, but if we freeze the video, you can see his eyes. Do you live in Puyallup, and have you seen this man? He's 6 feet tall, 220 pounds, wearing an Oregon State University vest and hoodie. If you have any information, call our tip line 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS or contact us at amwtips.com.
When we come back, critical information about the case that puts it in your hands. Can you help get justice for Amy Rhodes' family? Her husband is here with a message for Christopher Jones and Allison Gracie. And later, an affair that ends in murder.
The discovery of body parts in bags.
The killer nowhere to be found. We will show you new clues to bring this fugitive to justice.
Welcome back. Allison Gracie and Christopher Jones sent the Get Wet, a boat they owned and operated, out to sea, knowing full well the deadly risk it carried on the water. Now, Amy Rhodes is dead, and her family is looking for justice. But will they get it?
That night, the cops came to the house that we were staying at.
And the front door burst open, and Justin threw me in this embrace, and he said, "She's gone. She's gone." He just kept saying that over and over, and I was trying to wrap my head around what he was talking about. I could see police officers and other people, and then I felt 2 little hands holding the leg of my shorts, and I realized that my 3-year-old daughter was behind me. She didn't know what was going on, so I just held her. I really needed to tell her I needed to tell her mom was gone.
It really hit when we got back home. My dad and I saw her car in the driveway. That's when it just kind of overall hit me. I wouldn't see her ever again.
After this tragedy happened, it became really apparent that it wasn't an accident at all. What Gracie and Jones did was illegal. Amy would still be alive if they merely complied with Coast Guard regulations. They had the chance to fix these problems multiple times. It was a crime. After my sister's death, Gracie and Jones skipped town. These are two criminals that operate in criminal ways.
Jones and Gracie were indicted on October 12, 2012. They were charged with manslaughter, negligent operation of a vessel, and making false statements by way of false documentation. If convicted, they face up to 10 years in prison. The U.S. Coast Guard attempted to look for them at all the addresses of their known associates. We had no luck finding them in Florida or in the United States for that matter. Jones and Gracie disappeared. Interpol put out the red notice. After 2012, there was little to no movement on the case. The next break came in 2015, when authorities in St. Martin located Jones and Gracie and were able to take them into custody. Jones and Gracie were bailed out, but they were to remain on the island of St. Martin. We were told that their passports were confiscated. Unfortunately, that did not stop them from escaping off the island.
I miss my sister every day, but the justice that needs to be served isn't for me, it's for Rowan. It's for making her grow up without her mother.
She had so much that she would have loved to live for. She had a family, she had a brother. In a couple of years, she would have had a niece and a nephew. She had me. There was just so much coming in the future that she didn't get a chance to see.
Justice for Amy is long overdue. And I think we've reached a point where we really need regular, ordinary citizens to come forward and help us get that justice.
Allison Gracie and Christopher Jones are on the run. Have you seen them? If you have, call us or go to our website. Paul Holes, our former cold case investigator, is here with our fugitive tracker to track their movements. We know that after the boating accident when Amy drowned, these two disappear for 4 years until they're arrested in St. Martin.
That's right, but they were naive about the reach that law enforcement has, and they were careless when they relocated to St. Martin, which is just east of Puerto Rico. They set up the same dive boat operation, but are arrested, and authorities there confiscate their passport. However, they're able to get out on a bond and were bold enough to walk into the British consulate, claim they lost their passports, get new ones, and they take off.
They vanish and they are not seen again until they're arrested in France 2 years later.
That's right. In 2017, they try to rent a house from a woman in France, and they use their real names. She does an internet search and finds out they're wanted and turns them in. Authorities there confiscate their passports once more.
And then they disappear after they're released inexplicably and vanish yet again and haven't been seen since. But chances are they're probably in another beach town renting boats to tourists.
Absolutely. They're going to fall back on what they know.
What they know and what they've done all their lives. Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Paul. So keep an eye out for those two and send us your tips at amwtips.com or 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS. And we're joined now by Pat Rhodes, Amy's husband. So good to have you here, and I'm so sorry to meet you under these circumstances. This trip was meant to be a celebration of life for Amy's father, who had died 1 year ago.
Yes, that's exactly right. This was supposed to be a celebratory trip, and for most of that week it was. And the scuba dive that Amy went on, kind of a dream that she'd had for a while, was supposed to kind of be the culmination of that week for us.
They have been on the run, these two, for nearly 10 years. Twice they've been arrested. Twice you were actually quoted in the press as saying, "Thank God we finally have justice." And they slipped away both times.
Almost 10 years later, I still can't wrap my head around it. It's just mind-boggling how that can happen.
If they were watching this program tonight, on the off chance they were, what would you say to them?
I'd say it doesn't matter how long you guys are out there. We will find you. You will have your day in court.
And you will finally have your justice.
That's right.
Okay. Pat, thank you so much for being here. It's a
Thank you.
powerful statement. We need your tips right now to bring in these two fugitives. The family of Amy Rhodes has been waiting almost 10 years for justice. They're counting on you to get the big break they need. So if you've seen this couple or anyone else we featured on this show tonight, go to amwtips.com or call us at 1-833-3AMW-TIPS. All right, we have a crime alert coming into our headquarters. Can you help identify these suspects? Another frightening attack on an Asian American is captured on video. Take a look at the horrifying images of a woman being dragged. The woman would only give her first name, Clarice. This happened on March 21st in Nob Hill as Clarice was walking home from church. Witnesses say 3 men came up from behind and grabbed her purse. When Clarice wouldn't let go of her handbag, one of the suspects punched her in the face. They all jumped into a getaway car, but Clarice held on as they sped off. A few seconds later, she falls violently to the pavement. Clarice was badly bruised. Take another look at the suspect in the orange ski mask. He is slender, wearing a dark shirt and pants with black and white sneakers. The suspect's car is an older model gold sedan with damage to the passenger side in the front of the car and also in the rear. If you know anything about this awful attack, call us at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS or amwtips.com.
When we come back, 2 close families torn apart by adultery and murder.
The discovery of body parts in bags.
We have new clues to help capture the fugitive. And later, we bring back a case from the AMW vault, a convicted murderer who escaped during a prison shopping trip more than 40 years ago. Tonight, we have new information so you can help find Lester Eubanks.
We're back with America's Most Wanted, and we're getting tips from you each week, so keep sending those along and follow along with us on social media, like Aiden's World, who said, imagine how terrifying it would be if you found out your neighbor was featured on America's Most Wanted. It's a good reminder, these fugitives can be anywhere. As always, if you have tips about the fugitives you've seen tonight, visit our website, amwtips.com, or call us at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS. Now, to our second case. Bob Tang was a successful businessman living the good life until he found out his wife was having an affair with his best friend. And what he did next shocked everyone.
Seth Chai was my husband. He was the love of my life. He was my world. Seth and I met Bob Tang and his wife Sokni in 2013. We got along so well. We went to Mexico for vacation twice. Everywhere we go, we all went together. We consider them like a family. There was not a moment they showed me any indication of not trusting them. I didn't realize they have a very bad intention towards me. On spring break 2017, Seth and I and the family with Sokni and Bob decided to have a road trip. That morning, before we left, Seth went straight to the coffee pot. I thought he was about to make coffee for me. He said, I made it for Sokni. I took a step back. Why would you make coffee for somebody else's wife and not your wife? I knew something sinister is happening.
On May 14th, 2017, both families took a hike at Half Moon Bay. It was on this hike that Sokni pulled Bob aside and told him that she wanted a divorce. Bob was distraught over this, but nonetheless, he agreed to the divorce. Bob had this extensive home security system with cameras all over his house.
Thanks to Bob's elaborate security system and his cameras, he had seen Seth and Sokni kissing. He was embarrassed. He was infuriated. This is his best friend and his wife. He knew about the affair. Bob was out for blood.
After they got home from the hike, Seth told his wife that he had to help Bob move some furniture from one of his rental properties in San Francisco.
He said, I love you. And I said, I love you too. That was my last conversation with my husband. On my way to work at about 3:30, I decided to call him. He didn't answer the phone. At 4 o'clock, I called him again. He didn't answer. 4:30, called him. The phone went straight to voicemail. I got a little nervous.
When Ratana got home from work around 11:45 that night, she was in panic. She was fearing the worst for her husband.
I texted Sapni that he went to meet Bob, and now I tried to call him. He never answered his phone. Do you know where he is? She said, I haven't seen him since we came back from hiking. So I called Bob. He told me Seth's supposed to meet me to help move furniture. I said, yes, that's what Seth told me as well. Where is he? And Bob said, Seth never showed up. I called 911.
When police arrived, they took a statement and completed the missing persons report.
After the police left my house, I could not sleep. I literally sat staring at the window. Every car that passed by, I thought it was my husband. I just sat there, staring at the window, hopefully that was his car passed by. Hopefully that his car came to the garage. Hours after hours, was nothing but silence. I knew that something really bad happened to him.
Seth Chai is missing and his loved ones aren't sure what to do. This is a really frightening situation for his wife, Ratana, who doesn't know where her husband is and isn't hearing back from him. Yodit is back, and at what point, especially when it's an adult who may be missing, should you contact the police?
You want to report an adult or child missing as soon as they know.
As soon as you know, what information should you have when you make that report?
Police need an accurate description of the scenario, the situation. So you want to start with the biographical information. You want to provide recent photos. You also want to zero in on the last time you spoke or saw the individual. What did they say? What were they wearing? These are very telling pieces of information that can be really key.
Well, it's a very difficult thing to be thinking about in that kind of a situation. Yodit, thank you so much. And we're going to get back to our story in just a minute. But first, we have a crime alert. Police in Tampa, Florida need your help catching a shirtless man who robbed 2 7-Elevens just minutes apart on February 10th. Here he is. Take a good look. The suspect, armed with a gun, enters a 7-Eleven on Hillsborough Avenue and demands money from the register. You can see multiple tattoos that appear to be music notes on his left arm and a tattoo of a Cuban flag on his left shoulder. Do you know anyone with these kinds of tattoos? Before he leaves, he asks the clerk a question.
Good. I'm fine. Good.
Take another look at the suspect and the tattoos on his left arm, music notes, and a Cuban flag. He's white or Hispanic, 5'10" to 6'1", weighing about 175 pounds. He was driving a red sedan. If you have information, contact us at 1-833-3AMW-TIPS or amwtips.com.
Coming up, 2 husbands, but only one is missing. A love triangle that ends in murder. Now, we need you at home to track down this fugitive on the run. Later, he's one of the U.S. Marshals' 15 most wanted, and for good reason. This convicted murderer has been on the run for almost 50 years. We need your help to find Lester Eubanks.
Welcome back. On every episode of America's Most Wanted, we check in with our catch counter, which is currently at 1,187, up a catch from when we started this season. And that's all because of you at home, sending us your tips and helping us find these elusive fugitives. We thank you. Keep up the good work. Now, back to our second case. The manhunt continues to help find Seth Chai, who has mysteriously vanished. And the connection between his disappearance and Bob Tang's marriage problems is about to be revealed.
I knew Bob had done something to my husband. I knew in my heart.
New information tonight about a man from San Francisco who disappeared 10 days ago. Police now consider him to be a victim of foul play. And we've learned the person of interest in this case is someone the missing man knew and trusted.
Foul play is suspected because we did have an interview scheduled with Mr. Tang. He did not show up for that interview, and there is a connection between the two.
Investigators headed directly to Bob's house. Sokni answered the door and said she hadn't seen Bob since the day before. She also confessed to the affair with Seth.
With the information supplied by Ratana and Sokni, detectives became laser focused on Bob Tang. They obtained an arrest warrant. Bob's work van was found at the San Francisco International Airport, and detectives were able to pull surveillance footage of Bob Tang leaving the country.
Bob Tang managed the family import-export business. 6 weeks after Seth disappeared, employees at Bob Tang's warehouse detected a strange smell coming from underneath one of the refrigerators. They found a black plastic bag with human remains inside and 3 more on top of the refrigerator. That's when police were called.
Nobody in the family wants to believe that this is him. We want to believe that he's possibly kidnapped and we'll be able to find him soon alive.
Police discovered a chop saw hidden away in the warehouse. It appeared to have dried blood on it. DNA results confirmed both the dried blood and the remains inside the bag belonged to Seth Chai.
The police called me. He said, "I did not want you to know from the news. I just want to let you know that we found a couple of bags inside the warehouse where Bob worked." He said, "There's body parts inside those black bags." I screamed. I screamed so loud. I couldn't hear anything else after that. I said, don't tell me. It was not true. That's not true. It's not real. My heart broke.
For something that seemed to be planned out, it's incredible that Bob Tang left behind bags full of body parts and that he allowed a man to be caught on camera. It's clear to law enforcement that they're chasing the right guy. Now they just have to find him.
My world shattered because of Bob. I think he knew all along there was an affair happening, but he didn't say anything to anyone. In my opinion, Bob is vengeful, calculated, and diabolical. I think he's nothing but a killer.
Bob Tang is still on the run. The FBI is offering a $10,000 reward for information that leads to his arrest. Have you seen him? If so, call us or go to our website. Paul Holz is back with our fugitive tracker so we can see where he's been and where he might be. What are his anchor points?
Well, I want to start with Hayward, California, which is right across the bay from San Francisco. Bob Tang operated a warehouse there. Not only was the victim's body in there, but a chop saw with the victim's DNA was on it, and cell phone records showing Bob Tang and the victim's cell phones were inside that warehouse on Mother's Day, the day of the homicide.
Mother's Day, the day that Bob Tang's wife told him she wanted a divorce. Does this mean Bob was reacting emotionally?
The act of homicide was most certainly emotionally charged in the heat of the moment.
Right.
The crime scene cleanup was poorly done. This is showing an unsophisticated offender that was likely in a rush.
But still took 3 weeks before then fleeing the country.
That's right. And the next point is his vehicle ends up at the San Francisco airport. His cell phone is left inside the vehicle, and authorities find that he has purchased a one-way ticket to Asia. Now, he had dual citizenship with Cambodia and the United States. Authorities think he is likely in Cambodia, and that's a strong anchor point for him because he likely had or still has family there.
But his 2 sons, his teenage sons, are still in the Bay Area. Do we think he's in touch with them?
There's a strong possibility he is. However, there's no way for authorities to fully monitor that.
All right, Paul, thank you so much. And again, if you have any information or have seen Bob Tang, go to amwtips.com or call us immediately at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS. But first, we have another crime alert tonight. If you were in downtown LA on February 4th, did you get a look at these dangerous criminals? It happened in the world-famous Diamond District, a wild and brutal robbery in broad daylight. It starts off camera when these suspects rob a couple walking their toddler at 7th and Hill Streets. Then the suspects viciously attack the father. You can hear the woman screaming in the background. During the struggle, you can see the victim actually grab the suspect's gun and toss it. A second suspect grabs something off the ground and they both take off in a gray Chrysler 300. Maybe you recognize the car. Thankfully, the victims are okay tonight, but the LAPD needs your tips. They're worried these suspects will attack another innocent family as they get desperate. Send us your tips at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS or amwtips.com.
Next, America's Most Wanted is back with a convicted murderer who's been on the run since 1973. Police need your tips to find him and put him away as soon as possible. You don't want to miss this.
Welcome back. On to our next case, one we featured on the original AMW that remains unsolved. Lester Eubanks is one of the U.S. Marshals' 15 most wanted, a convicted killer and serial predator who's managed to stay one step ahead of law enforcement for nearly 50 years.
Lester Eubanks was known to law enforcement. Law enforcement says he's a man who had committed numerous violent acts, including sexual violence. It's fair to say he is a serial sex offender.
He was walking home after a night of partying. He saw a young girl walking towards him. It was Mary Ellen Diener. She was just going out to help her grandmother do some laundry. He grabbed her, pulled her behind the house. He reaches for a gun, he shoots her twice. The Mansfield Police Department quickly identified Lester Eubanks as a possible suspect. Lester confessed the entire crime. This case came to trial very quickly. He was found guilty by a jury of his peers. Lester was sentenced to death.
Initially, when Eubanks went to prison, he was getting into physical altercations, but he found out about this model inmate program and he decided to change his behavior quite a bit. He participated in activities designed to ingratiate him with the staff.
In 1972, when Ohio abolished the death penalty, Lester Eubanks was moved to general population.
As part of the model inmate program, inmates were allowed to leave the prison for a shopping trip.
He was dropped off and he fled. He went to Michigan where he stayed for a couple months and then traveled on a bus to the greater Los Angeles, California area. His life on the run had just begun. In 1994 and 1996, America's Most Wanted first aired the Lester Eubanks case.
What happened that night shocked the whole town, and the nightmare continues to this day for Mary Ellen's family.
You know, those circumstances under which she died is what really, you know, kind of zapped us.
14-year-old, just 4. The heck of it.
Having the eyes and the ears of America out there to provide us information on where a particular person is one of the most valuable tools we could possibly ask for.
The second time it aired, we received a tip of information that Lester Eubanks was living in North Hollywood. This information provided an exact doorstep to where Lester was living. Authorities were able to respond on that tip, and they just missed him by hours. Lester Eubanks has a scar on his right arm. It's on the outside of his bicep. He's a handsome man. He's one of these guys that is able to fit into any situation, and he'll utilize anybody he can to continue his life on the run.
It's important for anybody out there on the run to know that it doesn't matter how long you stay out there. We're not going to give up, and eventually one day that knock on the door is going to be us, and we're going to find you.
It's time to get justice for Mary Ellen Diener.
Just last October, the U.S. Marshals doubled the reward for the capture of Lester Eubanks. They're now offering $50,000 for information leading to his arrest, the biggest reward ever offered by the U.S. Marshals. If you've seen Lester Eubanks or have any information about him, don't hesitate to contact us now. Paul is back, and we're going to bring in our AMW criminal avatar of Lester Eubanks using age progression technology to show what we think he'd look like today. What are we looking at?
Well, Eubanks currently is 77 years old. He's 5'11", 175 pounds. He's got brown eyes, graying hair. He also has historically worn a mustache and may have additional facial hair and has needed glasses in the past.
But we're going to also show him without glasses and without the mustache so our viewers can see that he actually looks younger. He's also left-handed and has a distinctive scar on his right arm right over here. Something for our viewers to look for. I'm curious, Paul. You know, just 2 years ago, he was put on the U.S. Marshals 15 Most Wanted list. Why would they wait all those years to put him on the list, and who did they pick to put on that list?
These are typically individuals that have committed the worst of the worst crimes and are often homicide suspects or child predators.
And Lester Eubanks checks two of those boxes: homicide, convicted, child predator. What on earth was he doing on an unsupervised shopping mall trip?
Well, it's just a horrible mistake. He was a serial offender at the time he killed that 14-year-old girl and was on death row. He's the highest level offender in that prison system. But it also underscores he is a master manipulator. He was able to convince prison authorities to get them into that model inmate program, knowing he would have an opportunity for an unescorted field trip. And when he got that opportunity, he seized upon it. And authorities believe he likely had help during his escape.
All right, Paul, thank you so much. And remember, the U.S. Marshals has doubled the reward for Eubanks to $50,000. We urgently need your tips. If you have any information at all about Lester Eubanks or anyone you've seen tonight, go to amwtips.com or call 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS. We love hearing from you, especially feedback like this. If social media and the avatar was invented when America's Most Wanted first aired, they would have caught way more people. We're glad we're back to help catch them now.
Coming up, a woman disappears in the Oregon mountains after picking up a hitchhiker. We have new, never-before-seen footage and need your help to find her.
We need your help finding a woman missing in the mountains of Oregon. Investigators just released new information in the case. Take a look at 45-year-old Fauna Fry. On June 27, 2020, she took a trip to Grants Pass to see some friends and disappeared. On June 28th, Fauna is seen on a security camera at a store called Fred Meyer in Grants Pass. The next day, June 29th, she's spotted on camera again, using an ATM at Umpqua Bank in Rogue River. Later that day, cameras show Fauna at Big Five, a sporting goods store in Grants Pass. This is new video from the Josephine County Sheriff. You can see Fauna buying clothing, shoes, and other items. She paid with a credit card and then left the store. After that, she called the front desk at the We Ask You In. The clerk says Fauna made a reservation but never checked in. Her locked Jeep Cherokee was found on September 23rd, 2020 on Rubin Mountain. Law enforcement and volunteers searched the area for days but couldn't find Fauna Fry. Take a good look at these photos. Fauna has blonde hair and blue eyes. She's 5'6", 135 to 150 pounds. Have you seen Fauna Fry? Friends and family are pleading for help. Send us your tips, amwtips.com, or call us at 1-833-3-AMW-TIPS. Before we go, let's review the fugitives featured tonight. Allison Gracie and Christopher Jones, wanted for involuntary manslaughter, killing an innocent tourist and then going on the run. These two are boaters and were last spotted in France in April of 2017. They're most likely someplace in the EU or in some sort of beach community. Bob Tang, wanted for the brutal murder of Seth Chai. After finding out he was having an affair with his wife, police say Bob Tang killed and dismembered Chai, leaving an overwhelming amount of evidence behind before booking a one-way ticket headed toward Cambodia. He was last seen in the San Francisco Bay Area. The FBI is offering a $10,000 reward for information that leads to his arrest. And Lester Eubanks, on the run since 1973, when he was serving time for the attempted rape and murder of 14-year-old Mary Ellen Diener. He's one of the U.S. Marshals most wanted. They're offering a reward of $50,000 for information that leads to his arrest. And here's what we're working on for the next America's Most Wanted. This dangerous fugitive, a former Marine with a history of domestic violence. He's wanted for first-degree murder after allegedly strangling a young mother to death. And he may have harmed even more people on the run.
Get this man off the street so he doesn't strike again.
We really need your help on this one. I'm Elizabeth Vargas. Thank you so much for watching tonight. Remember, fugitives, we're coming for you.